Hello Panthers, this is Laura Tuttle-Lay and I'm one of the counselors at the perimeter campuses at Georgia State University. Today I want to talk about stress relief and spend some time with you creating some stress relief tools, specifically some homemade stress balls. We're going to go through 2 different recipes using common kitchen items because these days we don't have a lot of access to other things we might need. Stress balls are a really common way to relieve stress because they're usually soft and soothing so that they can be rubbed on if you're feeling anxious or worried or sad, but they're also firm enough that you can give them a really tight squeeze if you need to release some tension or some frustration or your stress. The things that you'll need for our recipes today are 2 tablespoons of cornstarch with 1 tablespoon plus 2 teaspoons of dish soap. You'll need a bowl to mix that in and like a fork or a spoon to mix it with before you get your hands in it. And for the second recipe, if you don't have those items in your kitchen, you'll need 1 cup of flour, a half cup of salt, and a half cup of water, plus a bowl and something to mix with. That is a lot of salt, but if you have one of those big containers, you should be fine. So let's get mixing. The first fidget that we're gonna make today is one that starts with only 2 ingredients, and as I mentioned before, all of them are fairly common household items. So we're gonna start with the cornstarch, and then we're gonna add the dish soap. Anybody who's ever worked with me knows that I love silly putty. It's something that I really enjoy for helping me focus, and I find it incredibly relaxing to have. So let's make our own. So the first thing I'm doing is taking the cornstarch, and the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. It can be a little messy, and again, some of you are bakers and you might be horrified at my kind of blasé approach to measuring. So it's not precise, but it's all right. All of you science majors, please try not to judge my imprecise measurements. So we start with 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and then we'll move on to 2 tablespoons of dish soap. I happen to have one that's a lavender scent. It can be any scent really, or the other option is you might have essential oils in your home that you can add. So we'll slowly add 1 tablespoon of dish soap to our cornstarch, and then we'll go from there. At times with this recipe, you might add a little of one and the other, and we have our teaspoon here in case we need more. So we'll start by stirring it and mixing it. One of the things I like about these fidgets is that both of the ones we're going to create today are really soft, and they're malleable, so you can squeeze them, fold them, bend them, pull them, and do lots of things to be able to get out some of the nervous energy you might have from being stuck inside, or some of the nervous energy you might have from focusing so much on completing your assignments and studying for exams. So it's not quite coming together yet with the first tablespoon, so we will go to the recipe says an extra 2 teaspoons. So let's add our next teaspoon. The fun is in the squishing and the squeezing. So I'm not sure if you guys can start to hear some of the squish sound, but it is a really satisfying sound to me. Mine is a little sticky now that I added that extra tablespoon. That happens sometimes. We'll just get a little bit of the cornstarch off the side. I'm gonna go ahead and throw in some more cornstarch. Whoa! All right, that was an exciting explosion. so then we have to balance that out with more dish soap. One of the reasons having a soothing fidget can be so helpful is that it as you can see, I'm really squeezing this now. It can help release that tension that we store up when we're stressed. The anxiety that we have creates a physical reaction in our bodies. We really do have more energy when we're stressed and anxious. So this is a safe, healthy way to get it out. But fidgets can also be a helpful way to focus and keep your attention. So it's relaxing to explore and experiment for me. I don't mind making a mistake. I don't mind being wrong. I don't mind having to throw a little extra on. And again, I'll try to use my patience so I don't add too much. I like getting my hands a little messy. If you have these materials and you choose to make this fidget, this homemade silly putty, I want you just to pay special attention to how soft the cornstarch is. It's like a very fine, silky, incredibly soothing material. So just taking a moment just to acknowledge and appreciate that sensation can help you really enjoy this relaxation technique. And as you'll see, it's starting to come together and really take shape. And so a lot of the homemade things that you can make are based on science and measurements and precision, but they're a really great reminder that you can stray away from your goal a little and still come back on track. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach where you make one mistake or one misjudgment, or as you saw when I dumped so much excessive cornstarch out. One mistake doesn't have to stop you completely. It doesn't have to end everything. You'll know your silly putty is done when it's no longer crumbling off like this. You can start to see the hand marks as I squeeze it, the indentations of my fingers. Just being able to play in the cornstarch, as soft as it is really soothing. And so this one, the creation of it is a really great combination of that soothing smell of the lavender, the soothing softness of the cornstarch, but then the firm way that the stress ball comes together, or the silly putty comes together, and the way that you can squeeze it into shape. All right, so check it out. Now it is done. Man, this one's pretty amazing. And then on to the next one. And our second recipe is for Plato. And so this one's a little stretchier than that silly putty, not quite as smooth. It is a little messier to make, so I just want to warn you that this one's gonna be, while it comes together, it's gonna be a little sticky, so don't get concerned about that. This one you need 1 cup of flour, a half cup of salt. It's a lot of salt, a lot. And then we'll slowly add in a half cup of water. And as in the last time, sometimes it doesn't work out precisely and perfectly, so I have a little extra water in case I need it. So we'll start with our flour. And again, if you've never spent time just dipping your hand in some flour, something you might want to try. So I have flour is very soft, silky, very soothing and enjoyable material to play with. It's just really nice. So that's our 1 cup of flour, and we're just gonna pour a half cup of salt in. That cascading swish of the salt pouring into this cup is also a really cool, pleasing sound. So you've got your entire half cup and you pour that in. And just to feel the contrast, you've got the rough salt with this very soft flour, and it's a pretty cool contrast. I happen to have, unbleached flour here, but if you have the bleached kind, it's all white, and so you have white on white, but this is a really cool contrast of kind of like an ivory on white. So you'll just mix them together a little, and then we'll dip our water in. Just start to slowly mix it. So I'm not going to pour all of my half cup in yet because we're going to need to reserve it for later. And again, if I don't have the measurements quite precise, I've got more if I need it. So we'll start to mix it. Again, you could choose to put some essential oils in here. This one doesn't have much of a smell on its own. It's a really great physical sensation. It's very pleasing and soothing, but it doesn't necessarily have that smell that is peaceful the way that you can with like a scented soap. So you could add an essential oil. In both of these, you could try to add a food dye to make it colorful if you're feeling a little bit experimental, or you can just be okay with them being the way that they are. Things in their natural state are perfectly okay too. So we'll be mixing. Right now it's looking a little bit like a pie crust. And because it's coming together nicely, I am just about ready to grab it and start kneading it by hand and really get the fidget coming together. So if you happen to have something like balloons in your house, they can be a really cool addition to this to make it an actual stress ball and not just a stress relieving Play-Doh. Whew, that feels so great. I really do hope that you all have some of these ingredients in your home and you have a few minutes to explore and play and allow your hands to get a little messy, because I can't tell you how relaxing and squishy this is. And so being able to experiment with projects like this is a really good reminder for life. Tolerating uncertainty is hard. Sometimes we just want to rush in with an answer, whether we've thought everything through or not, or whether, like I said, we've given it a full opportunity to work. So I'm going to do my best to be patient and hold off that temptation to add water until I've really done the work. You can see my fingers changing colors as I push, and it is just a really nice relief to be pounding out all my frustrations, disappointment, boredom on this Play-Doh. Now it has come together quite nicely, but it is cracking, and we want our Play-Doh to be a little more consistent. For me, it's a little easier to really squeeze and get that tense release out when it's smaller, because I can really get my fist around it. So some of you who are taller, you might want to keep the whole batch together. I'm a little sad you guys can't feel this and experience the relaxation and joy that I'm feeling at this Play-Doh right now. I mentioned if you have balloons, you could use those to make your own homemade stress ball. So what you would do is when you have the balloon, you'll pull the neck open really far and you'll take little chunks of the Play-Doh and you'll shove it in. You probably need another person's help, but you'll shove it in the neck, and the consistency of this in a balloon it's a really great stress ball. It's soft and soothing, but also a really great stress relief. So thank you again for your time and your attention. I really encourage you, if you have these materials, to play around because this stuff feels amazing and you deserve a little bit of relaxation after the semester you've had. Be well so that you can do well.